Welcome to the show. Today we are doing another experiment. We are doing Instagram as well as Zoom at the same time. So I hope that all of you can see me and we have a great time. This is our leadership series. I talk about various aspects of being a leader. And again, a quick background is that we're moving from a very, very industrial economy to a creative economy. And to really be successful in this economy, we need to learn to reinvent ourselves because innovation is happening at a very fast pace around us. There's no time for each of us to become experts and then turn around and teach a whole bunch of people. So we need to be in a more collaborative economy, in a more inclusive economy. So that's sort of what we need to do. So we talked about many aspects so far. So today I want to talk about how we need to reinvent ourselves. When I first went to Intel, I got very frustrated because in the first 3 months of being there, my group was shuffled around like at least four times. I had like three different bosses literally in the first 3 months that I was there. And I was very upset because the boss for whom I wanted to work, she was moved to a new division and I lost her as my boss. So I was very upset. And Andy Grove was having a town hall with everybody, and I went to the town hall. I'm just a newbie, right? And I put my hand up and I said that, why are we having so many reorgs and why are we changing so much? And he said something that stuck with me always. And he said that change is the only constant you can expect if you want to stay afloat. So it's about continuously moving forward, continuously changing things. I mean, this I'm talking more than 30 years ago. And today it's even more imperative than ever before to reinvent ourselves. There's a book written by Lloyd Shevsky, who's a professor, Invent, Reinvent, and Thrive. And he said that reinvention, a lot of times we think reinvent means we have to somehow become completely new people or whatever. Maybe it's so. But the most important thing he said that really stuck to me is that stick to your vision and adapt to changing world. So it's not about changing your plan every day, changing your vision every day. You will have a clear vision, but how you get there needs to keep changing. So you want to go from whatever Bangalore to Delhi. You can go by car, you can go by road, you can go by flight, you can go walking, you can hitchhike. I mean, there are like 20 different ways you can get from point A to point B. So your vision hasn't changed, where what you want to do hasn't changed, but how you do it and the many ways you try are different. So that's what was very, very interesting for me. From that point of view, if you think about it, what does reinvention look like? Let me talk to you about a couple of people who have really like reinvented themselves. First, let me talk about Anne Sweeney. Anne Sweeney is one of the most powerful names in American television. She was the head of Disney ABC, and which is one of the most powerful media companies. And there's very few women in media in US, and she was one of the few, not just a woman, but head of a division. And at age in her 50s, she decided she didn't want to be that anymore. She wanted to be a TV executive. She actually wanted to create shows. The point is whether it's not whether that's the right decision or not, should she have stayed. It takes a lot of guts at the height of your success to say, this is not it. I want to try something different. The other, in our own, in India, the example you can see, if you take Madhuri Dixit and Ram Nemi, they're a couple, she's an actress, he's a doctor. I mean, just look at how they both have reinvented themselves. Now, Madhuri Dixit has been the darling of the Bollywood screen. She had so many hits. And she decides in 99 to get married, move to Denver, where not many people know her. And in fact, She married Ram Nene, who's never seen her movies. He grew up in America, didn't know who she was, never saw Hindi movies. So he had no idea of what a famous actress she is. Married her, she lived in Denver, had children, went shopping like everybody else, cooked everything, like lived in America. And then decided to come back to India in 2011. Now, when she came back, she was making the movies. Now, Ram had to reinvent himself. Now, imagine he's a cardiothoracic surgeon, which means after you do your medicine, you have to study for another 7 to 10 years and get very rigorous training to be able to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. He was that. And, at the height of his career, very good, very, demanding surgeries for which you need to stand on your feet for hours on end. So much of education that he has gathered. He left all that and came to a country where he never lived. This is completely new for him with, with his wife, his children, and reinvented himself. Now, it takes a lot for someone like him to come and say, okay, Madhuri, let's put your career ahead of time, ahead of me now. And let's see what we can do about it. They started a media company and they're doing a lot of things. He continues being a doctor. He continues advising, doing a lot of things. But it takes a lot of courage for someone to say, I am going to put my wife ahead of time, ahead of me, and see what she needs because she put me ahead of her in the last few years. That's when you become equal partners. That's when you become a true couple. So I really, both Madhuri and Ram are people I know. I know Ram much better. I really respect them a lot. And yes, in some ways, it's not that it's a special thing. I mean, if a woman uh, takes turn to put the husband ahead, the husband should do it also. But how many actually do it? Okay. So that's why that reinvention is really, really important to fundamentally change who you are, where you live, what you do. It's total change, right? So that's what I mean by reinvention, where you don't lose sight of the vision. The vision is we are in this together, we are a couple, we have children, we want to make a family, we want to be happy together. The vision hasn't changed. Okay? How you go about has changed. Similarly for Anne Sweeney, her vision hasn't changed. Of she wants to make a difference in the entertainment world. You can do it as a CEO, or you can do it as a producer, you can do it as an actor, you can be anything. And so that sort of is about reinvention. Now, let me pause for a second and say, what does reinvention look like at a personal level? So reinvention has two pieces to it. One is how are you reinventing yourself? And the second thing is, how are you reinventing an organization you work with or a community that you live in? How do you do that? So let's focus a little bit on reinventing yourself. And sometimes you have to do it because without that, you're going to disappear. I mean, it's a survival instinct. And if you're truly smart, you do it so that it doesn't come to a point of survival. So you have to, first thing you need to do is anticipate what's going to happen. It's not just about, okay, today I'm doing X and tomorrow will be a 5-time improvement over X that I'm doing today, or 10-time improvement over X today. That's not what it is. It's not about a linear improvement what I'm doing today. It's about forget what I'm doing today. What is going to happen in the future? If someone told you 10 years ago or even 15 years ago, the genetics would be where it is, that we can actually find out so much about ourselves. We can predict diseases. We can see what we are prone to. You would have laughed that person out of the room. But today we can. Our genetics has gone forward so much that we can learn a lot about ourselves. Now, 10 years ago, when you're in your ninth grade or eighth grade or whatever, if you're making a decision about what I need to study, and if you said that I think I'll become a computer engineer because that's where most of the jobs today are, you would have completely missed out on yet another revolution that's happening, which is in the area of genetics. So if you actually looked forward and say, what are the things that are happening? Okay, there is already DNA sequencing happening. There is a bunch of people doing this. Slowly, engineering and biology are coming together. So I think bioinformatics or genetics, these things are going to be really big. And you studied it from then, you would have become, you would become a great scientist. And 10 years later, by the time you finished your 2 years of 11th and 12th, 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of masters, whatever, 8, 9 years later, you actually arrive at a place where you can contribute a lot to a subject that's really, really doing well. And this is why we say, even when I advise young people what career they should choose, etc., first is choose something that you love. Okay, you can spend time getting good at. Even if you love something, unless you put hard work and practice, nothing will come to you. So at least what you love. And secondly, it is about look at where the world is going, not where the world is today. What will the world need by the time you come into workforce? It's 8 years down the line or 10 years down the line. That's the subject you need to take. So anticipation, looking forward and seeing what's coming. 10 years ago when we came to India and we were talking about what's happening, etc. 10 years ago, we were talking about artificial intelligence or sensors, all these kinds of things, which are a reality today. But today, when you look, you need to look at what's coming in the future. So it's not just artificial intelligence, how it's going to be used, what's going to happen in robotics, what's going to happen in the study of brain, what's going to happen in us understanding ourselves. These are all the things that are going to be really, really big. Evolutionary biology, these are all going to be really, really huge. And if you look at how we are evolving in areas like art or sports or things like that, India has such long way to go. That any work in this would really, really potentially become something big. So we need to look at where the world is going. Anticipation. Next thing, which is most important, is acknowledge. We need to say, okay, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at. I used to think that, and I talked about this before many times also, is that I used to think if I'm not good at something, I have to keep working at it till I get better at it, which is true in your younger age, because unless you practice, you don't get anything. But once you've been in a profession for a few years, you work for 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, it becomes pretty evident what you're good at, what you naturally gravitate toward, and what you shouldn't spend your time doing. So at that time, instead of trying to get good at it, you should just say, I'm going to focus on what I'm really good at, and whatever I don't know, I'm going to hire somebody for those positions, or I'm going to work with somebody who's very good at those positions. And this is why, when you look at very, very successful partnerships, co founders, they are very different people. Usually, there's one person who's more the CEO, external facing, and the other person could be a technologist or somebody who understands the operations, or someone who really is good at legal, or, they have complementary skill sets who respect each other's skill set. So that is what is very important in that partnership, in acknowledging this is what I'm good at, this is what you're good at, let's come together. So instead of trying to be good at everything. It's better to hire out what you're not good at or bring on board as partners what you're not good at. And the third A, we talked about anticipate, acknowledge. And the third A that's very, very important is to act on it. Because we can think, we can pontificate, we can wonder, we can analyze all these things forever and ever and ever. But nothing will happen unless you actually act on it. And so it's about you try it out there, you adjust, you improve, and you succeed or you fail. If you fail, you learn the lesson, you try again, you adjust, you improve, and you succeed. And it's an infinite do loop of try, adjust, improve, succeed, or fail. And then again, try, adjust, improve, succeed, or fail. It's like an infinite do loop till you get to a place where you feel it's worth moving forward. Success is not about I've arrived here, job done. It's not at all. Every place you arrive, the next thing is there awaiting you. Because I think till we bid goodbye to this earth and go on the next journey, we need to reinvent ourselves. We need to keep learning. We need to keep saying what's next, and that's where really fun is. And acting is not just about always in profession. There are people who say, okay, I've done that profession. I want to try this. I'm done with this profession. I want to try that. You could have been a business executive all your life. When you finish, you decide to go to carpentry and you create, beautiful furniture and have a furniture store. When you're done with it, you can go be I don't know, a golfer. When you're done with that, you can go be a writer. So it's about reinventing yourself and acting on it all the time is what allows you to reinvent yourself. If you don't try, how will you know? And there are many things about action, doing something every day till you get it right. And doing things in small measures till you feel comfortable with it. So you don't need to get up and be amazing in it. And this is another mistake we all do is we only act on things that we know we are good at. We feel comfortable. But the point is sometimes you need to act on things you're not good at. You have to learn those and say when is it not your nature anymore. You have to constantly balance that because if you decide to be a writer and you write on first day, you're not going to churn out a fantastic novel in a day. No one can do it. Even amazing writers themselves cannot do it. So it's a matter of keep on trying. So I just want to say that to reinvent yourself, it's truly about being completely honest with yourself. Go to the depths and see who am I? What am I? What am I good at? What am I not good at? What am I willing to try? What am I afraid to try? Why am I afraid to try? What do I need to get over these fears? So it's a very intense personal journey to reinvent yourself. And what I found is that, in my life, I had many careers, even within Intel, in one company in 12 years. I had at least eight completely different jobs that had nothing to do with each other, from a platform finance to computing marketing to end user marketing for chips to e-commerce to software to all kinds of things, and in each of them I had to start from scratch and learn what is this technology, what does this mean, in what way is it useful for people out there, how can we tell this story, how do I sell the internal managers to allow me to try new things. So it's a new journey every time. So it's important to understand what it takes to go on that journey. And what I found is that when I left Intel, for example, I had to think of, okay, what I want to do next. And then I was a VC for a little bit of time. Then I went to a nonprofit. And when I quit that, I had to think about what I want to be next. And what I found is that it's not the length of time you do a job, but before starting something new, the time you take to just transition. That transition time is the most important thing for reinventing yourself. It's not about a constant race. It's you need to stop and think and go within yourself and then take on the next race. And I really found that the pauses between the professions were as powerful as the the professional journey I had itself. So it's extremely important to let those transitions happen, to take those pauses. I was talking to somebody, he said something most beautiful, and a lot of the great poets say this also. The poetry or the beauty is not in the words, but in the silence between the words. It is the silence that matters, and everything else is filling the silence. So, if we can find the silence between words, the silence that's in transitions, the silence that is there when we don't know what's next, when you allow your mind to think, that's when true reinvention happens. For you to be something totally new, you have to give yourself the time to go deep within yourself. So that's about, you know, reinventing yourself. Now, when you talk about reinventing an organization is a collection of people, right? But and who are these people? And who are you? If you're a leader, when you're a leader of an organization, to reinvent it, first of all, you need to really listen to everybody around you, not just the five people who report to you, but up and down the chain of command. You need to listen to people. You know, whether you call it management by walking around, or whether you host town halls, or whether you just pull up random people and have tea with them, it's extremely important to listen to what others have to say, and allow them to try things that you may or may not know how to do. So it's important to give that freedom in an organization to reinvent yourself. So, and sometimes these amazing accidents happen. Most of you know about Slack. It's a software we use for communication among the organizations. And the way it started was that originally it was a video game company called Glitch. Okay, it was a gaming company, and the game flopped. It didn't do very well. But the communication platform that was used to develop the game, they realized was very good. And that's what they launched as Slack, which has become extremely successful. And it's amazing to see that, it has become successful. There are many others who are also, improving upon it. We have our own in India. We have a company called Fluho, which is done an amazing job of building a communication platform, because once that invention happens, there is, thousand flowers bloom, and they are successful in their own way. So that's the beauty of reinvention, is you don't know what new things it'll give rise to. Or even look at a company like Google. It started as a search engine, but actually, in some of the interviews, Sergey said that They had their mind on artificial intelligence. Now, what do you need for artificial intelligence? You need data. And what gives you data? A search engine. So, knowing they wanted to get this access to artificial intelligence 10 years down the line, they started a search engine, even though they were the last to come in the race. There was already like an Alta Vista, Excite, Ask Jeeves. There were like so many search engines. But they came and they did extremely well because they had a very much of a long-term vision of where they wanted to go, and they continuously reinvented themselves. And today, when you see Google, which is Alphabet, and there is many companies under it, whether it's Google X that's really looking at far out things, or looking at Chromebooks. I mean, the whole gamut of things is still under the same ethos of that long term vision. So you have to continuously reinvent yourself. So let me summarize what we talked about today. The thing about reinvention doesn't mean you lose sight of your vision. You stick to your vision and you adapt to the changing world, whatever is happening. And in this, we talked about a few people who have reinvented themselves and staying on top and being the best they can be. And we talked about two things. How do you reinvent yourself? How do you reinvent your organization? In reinventing yourself, we talked about three A's. You anticipate, you acknowledge, and you act. Each is a very, very important piece of action, and then is a piece of moving forward. And then, as an organization, keep listening to everyone up and down the chain. And I have always said that when you hire people smarter than you because you learn a lot from them. Hire people who threaten you a little bit. Hire people who make you a little uncomfortable. Hire people who are a little different from you. So hire people from whom you can learn, not who will just follow the orders. So you really want, when you do that, the organization will definitely keep reinventing itself because they will not keep quiet. They will not just follow orders. They will question, they'll push. And if you're the right leader who know how to listen, the reinvention will happen automatically. So, um, and the reinvention doesn't mean it's something really, really huge also. It can be little things, you know. I said at the beginning of lockdown, uh, I'll make rotis. I've never made rotis in my life. And my rotis are like, geography lessons with different countries, shapes, sizes, etc. You can't even tell which country. And so I did it every day at the end of 30 days, my rotis now are fairly circular. So it's not about reinventing yourself in huge ways, but it's sort of, I had this story about myself saying, I'm not good at making rotis. I am not good at cooking. That's just not my thing. Okay. But by doing that, I proved to myself that I was wrong. And if I can apply myself, I can do it. It's in a very, very small way. In a very, very big way, for me, the biggest transition has been, or bigger reinvention for myself has been about working from home. In the last 30 years of my career, I have never stayed without traveling for a week. I travel many countries. I'm on the flight all the time. And I go to work every day when I'm in town and I need to see my team face to face. I'm a very touchy feely person. I need to hug everybody. I need to see everybody. And I never ever thought I would be able to work from home. And the last 3 months, the change that has come within me is unbelievable that today I cannot imagine going to work every day. So reinvention is a continuous process Reinvention fundamentally changes, is about fundamentally willing to change who you are. If you hang on to this is what I am, I will not do anything else, there'll be no reinvention. But because I was forced to do this, I actually took the time to do it. And I'm so glad I did. So here is to reinventing yourselves. And as a great leader, always look forward to changing yourself at your core, but stick to the vision. Thank you so much for your time. Bye bye.